one. Clear your mind. Open yourself up to all possibilities, all opportunities. There are 10,000 ways to live your life. Pick one. Welcome to the Way of Conscious Mindfulness, a weekly podcast and YouTube show discussing spirituality and science, blending mind, body and spirit with health and well-being, with a Daoist twist. The Tao means the way, the path, the balance. Now, we are not the normal show, surprise, surprise. Each week we have a subject or guest. This week we have a great guest, and our aim is to have an open discussion, helping us find new skills, new ways, new techniques to balance our own personal Tao. Now, this week, at this moment in time, it is mono a mono. It is me and our guest. But that could all change. That could all change in the next 30 seconds, as it always does. I know that a certain co-host, Robbie, will appear. And I also know there is a good possibility Agent 35, aka Marilyn Devonish, could also appear as if by magic. Sometimes do. So let's go on to the guest. So the guest tonight, the show it's always about a guest or a subject, and the guest tonight is Savoy Brown. Now, he's been a co-host before, but we've only sort of heard him as one of the co-hosts, as you know, one of the questioners asking questions. But tonight it is his show. It is The Way of Savoy Brown. So it is about Ascension and undefined ideas, which he is the director of. So firstly, how are you, dear sir?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am here, I am well, and I am alive. That's three things. Always good.
Yeah.
So, let's say at this moment in time, it's going to be one of those interesting shows because it's just two of us at this moment in time. And then the others will possibly appear, and when they do, suddenly we'll have to play catch up. I will ask my normal question, my ultimate question, the question that has scared some guests and others have thrived. I think you're a thriver. So the ultimate question is, as this is the show, The Way of Savoy Brown, Brown, what is your way? What is your Tao?
My Tao. My way has always been through architecture as one way and ascension as another way. And those two have always formed together in my life, kind of like a DNA strand. So they've been really, really important to me. And that's, you know, just part of my way. Just part of my being are those two, you know, really big categories. Architecture helps provide homes for everybody in the entire world, and ascension is a way of being and understanding and growing upon yourself to better understand the world around you and to better grab hold of it. So that way you can live and survive and thrive and enjoy. So yeah, that's my way.
Well, good way to is ascension to you and mean to you?
Ascension to me. Ascension, the definition of ascension is to go higher, right? The next level. So ascension to me is applying, going to the next level and adding spirituality. So it's not just going to the next level and you're just like, oh, now I can run faster. It's going to the next level and being better, being faster, being smarter, being more. And that's what Ascension is to me, adding spirituality with Ascension.
So that's, you know, your aim is to, yeah. So because I'm interested in the idea of architecture and Ascension. I mean, how aware are you of like the ancient knowledge of sacred geometry and the pyramids and the whole idea of those structures were actually designed to help you ascend? You know, is that interests you? Is that something when you're saying about the architecture, is that something you know, are you just promoting the idea of, you know, there being architecture, you know, structures that everybody's living, or is it more than that? You know, what is your thing on architecture? What is the idea there for you with that?
So
Is that something you're
you're right on point. You are on point with the adding Ascension to architecture. So the architecture that I like is to raise your vibrations. I find it really interesting that architecture thousands of years ago almost looks nicer than it does today. And those are mainly temples, right? And they're so beautiful and they're like gorgeous. As soon as you walk in them, you feel this vibration. There's some temples where you can speak and the echoes are just beautiful. And they designed it that way, so that way it can excel your being. And that's the purpose of the architecture. So that's my purpose of me in the category of architecture, is to excel our being, excel how we're living, and to have a more integrated lifestyle rather than living so, boxed up and segregated from how things actually work in the world. And with Ascension, I'm looking for those architectural masterpieces, those musical masterpieces, because with what I want to do with building cities, it's not just about the buildings that are in the cities, it's about the people that thrive in them, and about the music that's created in them, and about the food that's adapted in them. And with that music side, I feel like you can add music to a building, and it's like a music and a beautiful building. Beautiful music and a beautiful building. It's like going to church. But I'd love that to be everywhere. You just feel
awesome.
that vibration.
Well,
right?
Well, because obviously, like, you know, music is vibration, all sound is vibration, but so is all light, and everything is technically frequency vibration. So it is, exactly that, and that's why, you know, and if you go back to the ancient architecture, the whole point of the architectures were to enhance that area, or to bring that vibration up. So when you go on to geometric solids, you know, is that each one in essence is a different vibration up, hence the sides and the shapes. And so when you can create that into a building, you then are raising that energy of that building. I mean, there are the people who I know who are studying the pyramids and whatnot, or certain agencies that were studying the pyramids. They were completely aware, like the pyramids themselves are actually cells, energy cells. They store and they harvest energy. You know, the whole point is, and the whole point with the pyramids, the actual capstone at the top, was that it would actually store the energy. The energy naturally rises to the top of the pyramid. And that's the whole point. So because the questioner, if you remember, Chris,
Yeah.
the questioner from one of our past co-hosts, he's actually got one of the pyramids. He's got a copper frame pyramid
Oh yeah,
that you
yeah.
can then meditate in.
Mm.
He's done like meditation in that. I've not got around to doing with his one, but he's got the pyramids to do that, and he does feel the difference. And there is a guy whose original name on YouTube was Ryan7. I'm trying to remember his full name, but there's a Ryan7, and Arcturus Ra was his like friend co-host that also did shows as well, and they were creating copper framed pyramids and whatnot, and then doing the orgons, the
the organite.
Organites, yeah. So they were using them within the frame system to boost up the power and generate energy within them. So there's some quite cool things going on there. And my wand, I had a crystal wand. I haven't got it at the moment, but there's a crystal wand which was actually created by Arcturus Ra, and it was basically like it was like one of these times 50. Very, very powerful thing. But when you actually stuck that into a pyramid, it really did some very interesting, or it would enhance your visions. If you was doing meditation, it would enhance your visualization. If you did Qigong within the pyramid, and enhance you would, if you felt slight tingling normally, you would almost feel like you're on fire. The energy would increase. So structures are very important. Structures do help, and the whole idea, the whole conspiracy theory, or the actual design they found in churches, that the whole point of the spires and the whole point of the open the openness of them and the way they're designed and the roofs, this was all about generating certain energy within that structure. So then when you add things like in Christian churches, they use a lot of sage, and also can't remember the other one they use. Not myrtle. It could be one as well. Frankincense, myrrh. When they burn a lot of frankincense, myrrh, and they actually stimulate pineal activation. So when you do that, as well as in a building that's designed with a spire, either a pyramid shape or the spiral cone shape, so the spirals are drawing up the energy, heaven energy, ways to activate you, to make you feel more etheric and one with nature, or one with the universe, or one with God, in essence.
Exactly.
So there is picking up my crystals. Structure is a very important thing. Structures are a very important thing. Hence why we, in the pagan system, so in paganism, they have dolmen. Dolmen are holes in the ground with stone slabs and a roof over the top. And again, if you actually go into dolmens and do any form of just sit there and be quiet, which is meditation, you will feel energy build up. You will feel of energy. So like Stonehenge in the UK, there's lots of dolmens in the UK, and there's lots of standing stones. These are forms of structure. Well, basically, these are like acupressure for the acupuncture needles for the planet. Yeah, being in the ground, and it's also said. I mean, I've never been there, but the stone faces in Easter Island. Oh yeah. What I'm not sure people know, they're actually a whole body. Yeah. They're a whole body. You see the face, but there's actually a whole body. Now, one of the things of that is that not only obviously being built up over that, but at that actual is the reason it's like that is actually it's acting like a needle into the earth. So it's actually a needle being put into the earth to draw out the energy. Because in acupuncture, what the needles do, the needles stimulate that point. You can activate those points. I do acupressure, but with acupuncture, the energy becomes far more acute. So
Gotcha.
this thing of with the Stonehenge, the stones, but also I forgot the word, the big long stones that you get in, obviously in Egypt, you have them, but also actually in America, the big long.
What are those called?
I can't remember the word. Unfortunately, there's nobody else here at the moment, but I know.
Yeah, we know what we're talking about.
I'm sure there'll be people screaming at the computer or the YouTube saying, or type it in. If you know, type it into YouTube, and I'll keep having a look to see if anybody gives us the answer. But those big long pillars are basically a acupuncture. Think of this, because originally in China, needles, it was bamboo. They actually used slivers of bamboo, and the bamboo was the acupuncture needle. And the whole point is that goes into the ground and it spirals the energy into it. So these big stone needles of sorts, and like the one, because you've got one in Washington, haven't you? There's one in Washington.
There's one in Washington.
Can't remember.
It's like a tall pyramid,
but anyway,
right?
it's a good long stone. I'll say, I'm sure as people watch this, they'll be telling us over and over again what it is. Unfortunately, we can't hear you. But the whole point of those, they're actually because obviously the Masons put the one in Washington in, because the Masons built up Washington, and you actually look at the floor design. There's pyramid, there's squares and circles, and the same in Rome, and all of this is designed to gather energy, to draw energy in, and to focus on a particular point. We did a show in the past on I think we've done 2 shows on feng shui. Depends, certain people want to say it in different ways, but the whole point of feng shui is it's like acupuncture for the home.
Exactly.
And in China, especially in Hong Kong and China, they don't do anything without seeing a feng shui master. Without that master actually, saying, right, we do this, this, and this, or you have it in this direction, you have it in that direction. So building structure, it is very important, more important than most people realise, especially
and patterns.
Patterns, sacred geometry. I mean, whole point of this one behind me, that is under the foot of a lot of Westerners call it a foo dog in China, the big, and some people think it's a lion. It's not a lion because it's got a dragon's head. Because the same in Chinese New Year, the big long body, that's a dragon, and that dragon's got the same head as the little one, which is a dog. So it's a dragon dog. But the dragon dog under their paw has the flower life.
Yeah.
In a 3D representation.
And it's everywhere.
It is. It is. And flower life, there's a yin yang going on, because the opposite to the flower life is the Merkaba or Merkaba.
Okay, yes. Definitely.
Or tetrahedron. A tetrahedron is 64 triangles all put together, and its shadow creates one of those babies behind me.
Isn't that amazing?
Isn't it just?
Isn't that amazing?
Isn't it just? Yeah, there is. I've got this great picture of it, a wire frame.
Okay.
Showing that, but this is turning into the way of sifuboggie, and it's not the way of Savoy. It's the way of Savoy. So, Savoy, tell me about an idea, a concept, a creation, undefined ideas. So, what is that? Tell me about it.
Undefined ideas. A lot of people get tripped up on that name alone. They're like, undefined ideas? That doesn't make any sense. That's the point.
Well, it depends who. To me, it makes perfect sense, but it's turning into the Boggie show again. So, explain. What do you mean by undefined ideas? What do you mean? I don't understand.
Oh my. So we, like, as humanity, we have a set of ideologies, right? You know, we get water from streams and we make streams longer to get water from them. And we get food from farms and we pay people money to grow our food that has chemicals in it and all of this good stuff, right? So with undefined ideas, it's taking the undefined side, the side that isn't shared, the side that people don't really know about and that isn't mainstream, and in turn making it mainstream. So that's the goal. And by, like, what am I making mainstream? So there's something called an atmospheric water generator. Have you heard of those? So it's a generator that generates water from the atmosphere, from the air. It takes oxygen and uses a cooling tube and cools down the oxygen to H2O, or not just oxygen, but air, which has nitrogen and all these other chemicals in it. Anyways, that is possible. You can take water out of the air and drink it. In fact, you can produce 16 liters of water a day from an atmospheric water generator. And you don't even drink 16 liters of water a day. You may shower in more than 16 liters of water or bathe in more than 16 liters of water. But having that option available is amazing. It should be mainstream. The first time I heard about it was from the government. And it was this big box, this big brown ugly box that produced water from the air. It was created by some woman in the military, I believe. And that got me thinking, like, well, if the military can do this and theirs looks terrible, what is the outside community making? So I found out, and there's some really nice looking atmospheric water generators that look just like normal jugs, like where you put the jug in the bottom or on the top. It looks pretty much just like that, but it absorbs water from the air. They're called tankless water towers. And that idea is probably something most people watching this have never even heard of.
Yeah, there are ones that can be very similar to like a fish net, or like a fishing net, and it just literally the mist. So anywhere that gets a lot of mist in the mornings, it will literally gather that mist, the mist up, collects into the net, and it drips down into water. And talking about architecture, there is I know that there are, in the last 10 years, most buildings, especially in America, that are being built today, are actually designed to be they're what they call green buildings. So they have those buildings with those water generators in them. So they're collecting the water to actually to use for all the toilets. So the toilet generation is actually done by filtering the water through the atmosphere.
Whoa! I gotta look that up.
Yeah, it's I saw there was a program just recently, reminded me again, and it was about buildings. It was about the creation of the buildings, and they were doing about modern day buildings. Or I actually like they were saying that like 15 years ago, you know, it was almost impossible to get people to be encouraged for people to do these ideas. But nowadays, people naturally want the buildings with these green ideas, because it's actually in long term, it saves them money. So, you know, it's taking less water from the city because it's already got water generation. They're actually having these buildings that have solar panels within the glass, so it's slightly tinted glass, but it's actually a solar panel, so it's drawing up energy. So so they're making I know it's New York. I know this program was actually talking about ones in New York, but all worldwide they now do it, that they naturally are doing these they call it like green or more holistic ideas, energy saving ideas. It is conservation ideas. There was there was a program on it. I know I shared it on the Way of Learning and probably on my own profile, so it's there somewhere. But look out for look for green buildings or energy saving buildings. I'm sure if you Google that, Google being my best friend, I'm sure you can put that, you will find the information.
I Google a lot, man, and that's really new to me. And I find that really interesting, and I got to find out more, because there's a lot of, what are they called? Models. Like there's architecture competitions where people input their competition idea, and 1 out of 100,000 get approved. And there's a lot of those on there, like a lot of those with floating cities and, buildings that move with the wind, and greenhouses that are skyscrapers. So there's a lot of those out there, but I haven't actually seen one being built. So it, like you said, if that's going on, I'm maybe 4 hours away from New York right now. I would go to see that.
I will. The next couple of days, I'll try to see if I can scour through my stuff and find it. So you have a look, I have a look, and I'll find, either you find it or I'll find it for you. So, but it was definitely. I'm pretty sure it was a YouTube video that I watched on it, but that was just a reminder of what I already knew was sort of like going on. I know because this is we live in a money-based society, so the irony is that it doesn't matter how woo-woo the idea is to society. If it saves business money, they'll use it.
It makes some money too.
Well, my teachers taught empaths. They taught the ability to be empaths. They taught psychic abilities. I've been teaching, and so they were teaching that in business. Feng Shui practitioners have been used in business for over 20 years.
For sure.
And you, like the modern person, you say, oh well, I don't believe. Oh, that's rubbish. There's no evidence of that. So actually, there is. And it's interesting when things. If an idea will save a company, especially money, they will use that idea no matter what. I mean, on the coastline, the British coastline, you see in the distance all these windmills, the old wind generators, the wind turbines, and that's happened within the last 10, 20 years, where once they didn't exist. And it, 5 years ago, we were still talking about, the idea of the future that we will, have all these wind turbines. Well, it's already happening. It's already happening. I mean, when you've got evidence, they've already, shown evidence that, what is it, Nevada desert, if they were to cover one, I don't even think it's that big, but I've got in my head 1/4 of the Nevada desert in solar panels, it would supply enough energy for the whole of the states.
Yeah, unused land.
Because you think of the logic. It's desert land. desert land, all heat obviously generates down on the desert land. You put solar panels on an area that's already desert land, it can generate a heck of a lot of energy. I know they're doing that in Saudi Arabia has big patches now where there are all these solar power, and it's generating a good portion of the energy they use in Saudi Arabia.
Vegas too.
And Vegas, and this whole city idea, these green buildings, what they're doing now, they have to comply to. I'm trying to remember the stats on that program, but I think it's at least 60%. They have to generate 60% of their own energy, if not more.
Exactly.
So it's all about self conservation.
Conservation.
They have got to use as much energy as possible, and then you've got the earth. What do they call them? The earth domes or the earth houses.
Earth ships.
The earth ships. I mean, again, you've got that where So it's interesting. You speak to the city folk, so-called society, and they go, we're miles away from that. It's just a pipe dream. But we're actually far, far closer than you think, and it's only because society takes a long time to change. Society is a very slow wheel, and is that individuals will adapt and will like new ideas and be very enthusiastic about new ideas. But groups, society is a very slow beast. It's a very slow thing, and it changes slowly. So it will take individuals taking these ideas and probably in more rural areas actually creating self-supporting. I mean, I think you're the same. If I had the funding, I would, and the land would I'd create a self-supporting village or community tomorrow. Not about being very like woo and but using modern ideas, modern technology, but using it in a conservation way, or holistic way is my preferred word, a very holistic way that will be in tune with nature and won't damage and destroy nature, but will also be friendly to the environment, but also you can still have your comfort. You can still have, there's these pods. There's these moving houses that and I don't mean the caravans. I mean like they've now got these. They're almost like you put on a truck, and you can park them anywhere. And they've got solar panels. They've got water conservation. They've filters in the water. You've got that. That's the rich idea. You've got these units that they can create, these big boxes that they create that generate their own energy, draw in drinking water, and they can put them in emergency situations. I'm trying to remember what it's called, but there's a couple different designs of those. So it's already there. The technology to do this is already there. It's only because us as consumers haven't pushed for that idea.
Exactly.
If you tell society, if you tell your you stop, because manufacturers are doing something in an unfriendly way or environmentally friendly way, if you stop buying from them, they'll have to change, because if they don't change, they die. And that's like people. It's far stronger than most people realise. Is that we can change society a lot better. We can change society just through the way we vote, the way we buy, the way we consume. It's down to us, down to individuals. But again, I think it's turning into the Way of Sifuboggie show again. So the undefined ideas, ironically enough, that's actually pretty much sort of what Boggie means: chaos and calm, the balancing of chaos and calmness. Undefined ideas is all possibilities. And then from all those possibilities, you can create the ideas. But anyway, back to the Way of Savoy. So you've got this concept, got this idea. What's its next step? Where are you in this creation of this idea? Where are you? What's your next step forward?
Okay, with Ascension comes a very important part of what we're doing. When you talked a little earlier, you talked about using solar panels, but there's a possibility to use them unsustainably. There's a possibility to use anything unsustainably, whether if it's green or not. And I get to figure out what the best possible way to actually build these cities is. And with that, I get deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into Ascension, where I start understanding that everything is changeable, that you can, with the right frequency, with the right, maybe even chemical, you can melt cement, right? With the right material or the right figuration, you can have a tree grow into a house. So when I think about these ideas like atmospheric water generators, I really, really work hard to get it out of my head as using the atmospheric water generator. I instead figure out how the atmospheric water generator works in nature. So usually there's another type of atmospheric water generator where it just, you said it absorbs fog, right? So the fog goes on and then the water molecules grab onto the plastic and then form, better water. There's one word in there that's really messed up, and that's plastic. And there's ways that trees do the same thing, and they actually have petroleum in them, and they do collect water. Forests, they're a mega center point for water collection. There's a guy who replanted a forest, I forgot where, but after he replanted the forest, the water started to come back there. A creek appeared. Just appeared. So it's really, really, really eye-opening to see that we can take these ideas, atmospheric water generators and plastic, and then turn them over into how the earth actually works and functions, instead of us trying to pry and put our fingers in it and then create nuclear explosions and wastes in the ocean and all this other stuff. So when I'm feeling about how to build these cities, it really is, or when I'm even designing them, it really is less of the physical and more of the metaphysical or the quantum physics of how to actually, create a city rather than destroy and build a city. So it gets really, really interesting for me on how to do that, because every time I try to present it, it keeps coming back on, well, you don't have the funds. And I instantly reply now with, there's Ascension. There's the ability to affect anything, including money and the law of attraction. That's how people have, gotten so much money, is either they created money themselves or they used the law of attraction to get that money. And of course, with the law of attraction comes actual work and effort. But this whole ideology about destroying to build is not in the picture for what I'm creating. I will share those ideas. I will share atmospheric water generators. I will share food that's made from bacteria and turns into meat. I will share how to get energy from air and how to get energy from water. And I will make these ideas come out there and be mainstream. But when it comes to the actual city itself, they cannot be in there because that is totally Babylon. It's totally just talking and building and destroying and breaking apart, and no focus and communication and team and effort and living together. Like even to the point of right now, I feel embarrassed to talk about this stuff because I am in a house where my grandmother's in the other room and may not necessarily believe in the stuff that I believe in. But you do. So there's a connection between you and me that's not between me and her. And that also comes in with building a city where connections are important, people are important. You have to really, really understand and create an actual city, create that reality to have a city. And at the moment, it's all on the drawing board and all on making the connections. And what is it? Training, which is why I have Becoming Superhumans, which is the whole Ascension and the Ascension program and stuff like that, where I teach people and I teach myself, because I'm a constant student, of how to understand my body, how to understand the way things work around. Like I just posted a video of a grandfather who sounds like he's maybe in his early 20s, who has like a almost completely white beard and is ripped as all heck, who has this mentality that age is an illusion. And he presents it completely because it is. You have an infinite soul, and you can turn that infinite soul into an infinite body. And you can use that infinite soul to understand how the world works and to create a city out of it, to create communication, create connections, create homes. And you don't even have to really destroy anything. You really don't. I mean, you can literally plant rows of trees. I mean, this is going to take a while, right? You can plant rows of trees in a square shape, let's say, or a circle shape. And then as they grow up, you just intertwine them together and create a completely safe house. Not only that, you can add the ideologies from earthships on top of that. And you can tire packs on the side of the root systems. And you can have a house with trees growing out of it, have a full good time and all that other stuff.
Literally becomes a tree house.
Literally is a tree house. You are living inside of a tree.
Kind of cool. Yeah, that could, yeah. It's not a new concept. That has been known before. Certain ancient cultures have sort of, done similar things, or is using, and the whole point of the earthships is that we use, rather than destroying, as you say, rather than destroying, we reuse old material, old stuff, and that way, by using our old stuff, we're renewing, we're reusing what's already been destroyed anyway. So the whole idea is saving future stuff from being destroyed. We use the old stuff. There is also, I don't know if you're aware of, they've now putting bacteria into concrete. So,
to repair itself.
Yeah, so it's self-repairing concrete.
Yeah.
So again, and again, this is the thing with business, because business is very much like a robot. Business is very much like a computer. There is no, it only sees logic. It only sees and it only sees the bottom line, which is money. So, but the irony is, if doing something that would, certain people would, like as I said earlier, certain people would say is woo-woo, but business will use it if it saves them money. So this idea of bacteria-filled concrete 20 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago would have been seen crazy. Why would we do that? That doesn't make any sense. But the whole idea that it actually reduces cost because it will actually fill in the gaps, therefore you don't actually have to repair it, will actually save money. But it's the whole, there is this thing of we do have to get out. And this is where it is with society. We have to change society's viewpoint because most people will have a phone, and within a year they're going to get a new one, or 2 years. Now, yes, they design them to do that as well, but we can learn to be renewable. We can learn to, rather than going out and buying new phones. There was actually a company, I'm not sure, it may have gone bankrupt because nobody went for the idea, but there was actually a company that was building phones that were a little bit like jigsaw puzzles, where when one piece broke, you could take that off and replace it with a new bit. So you didn't have to replace the whole, you didn't have to replace the whole phone. You could just, so your speaker goes, take that off, you put a new speaker on, and it plugs in, and it was all plug-in. Basically, the phone was almost like a Lego piece, where you just added bits that went. But that was about 5-6 years ago. I haven't heard anything from that. So there are these ideas, and it's changing the way people think. It's just like for me, we've lost in the medical profession. For people, they think I'm sick, go to a doctor, gives me a pill to take away the pain. Takes away the pain, it doesn't solve the problem. The pain tablets that are taking away the pain, or an operation that removes something, isn't solving the problem. All it's doing is taking away the damaged thing, but it hasn't actually resolved the issue that made that problem get damaged. So like vertebrae, if they take away a vertebrae from your back, the whole point that vertebrae was damaged was because of it came out of sync. Pressure was put on that vertebrae, came out of sync. If you remove a part of muscle, you remove a part of vertebrae, all you do is increase the problem because it will just move to the next one up. The system, in the biomechanical system, we were round about, was it I always forget, I think it was the 1700s. The biomechanical system saw things as separate individual parts, but the spine interconnects everything and works, and there's the ligamentous muscle system that actually is almost like an elastic band that actually joins everything together. And so when you affect one part of the spine, you affect the whole. We as a planet are the same thing. You affect one part of it, you affect the whole. There is other information out there. There is things that, when I talk about it, global warming, yes, the planet is getting hotter. But if you actually look a bit further out, as in the solar system, you'll see every other planet is also getting hotter. Then we have to think, well, okay, why? Because if you're saying it's man creating all these problems, then that's one thing. But why is every other planet? Because unless we don't know, unless NASA's not telling us, unless there are people on every other planet doing exactly the same that we're doing, why is every other planet getting hotter unless the actual effects are coming from outside the solar system? So there's this thing of, we have to start thinking globally. We have to start thinking universally. These issues. We can't just keep blaming things. Can't keep. If you keep sitting on a chair and within an hour your chair gives you backache, then
like mine did.
right. What's wrong? Is it you that's wrong, or is it the chair that's wrong? The chair is wrong for you. So add another pillow, add another cushion. Change the chair, not get rid of the chair. You know, is that, oh, get a new chair. Like if you're waking up with backache, get a new
Yeah.
bed. Well, how about rather
Exactly.
than get a new bed, fix the bed, add, and this is where me and Fred Bleach we talk about, is that if you're waking up stiff and achy in the morning, put another duvet on your bed. Take your bed sheet off, put a duvet up to the pillow end, then sleep on that for a night. If it feels a bit better, but it's still a bit achy, you keep doing that until the bed. So you make the bed, but you adjust the bed to you, not the other way around. And that's the same in society. If things are not right, then you need to adapt them. You need to change them to make them right, to make them work. But as what you're saying is the whole point. Also, is doing it in a way that you're not destroying other things, or you're not affecting other things.
Yeah, and that's where it gets really, really confusing, really interesting. That's where it starts to get into the ascension side of, well, if I want to do this for a building, or if I want to do this for a tree, how can I do this for myself? Right? How can I ascend myself? How can I understand my own being and maybe get past my blood flow, get past my lymphatic system, learn how to release white blood cells and stem cells from my spine and my bones, figure out how it works, and understand that I am infinite, and the time that I have to understand this is infinite. But at the same time, while I'm learning to get to this level, people are, dying off. So the world's still moving. So okay, great, I have an infinite amount of time to learn how Earth works. But do I really want an infinite amount of time? Do I want that do I not want an infinite amount of time for myself?
Mm-hmm.
Or do I not want an infinite amount of time for everybody else? And that's where I am right now. Like, yeah, I could go away, study, meditate, do everything. But time's ticking. People are dying. Houses are controlling. There's suffocation. There's pain. There's agony. There's frustration. Just a little frustration. And that will continue and continue and continue, and the population will grow and grow and grow as I sit in my chair and do nothing. So getting rid of that, let's use the bed as the example, right? Getting rid of the bed and learning how to do something like not sleep, or learning how to move atoms around your body, learning how to float, learning how to move energy. I know these all sound like weird things, but in science, and now you're like, no, in the details of things, it's literally possible. It's easy. We've split an atom and caused a nuclear bomb. If we can do that from one atom, and that's a negative side, right?
Well, I'm not shaking my head because of that. There's a very good reason, a very special reason, a very good reason why in science, in medical case studies, that we do what's called a blind case study. The reason we do blind case studies, this goes all the way back to the 1920s with quantum physics, and because most people don't realize, 1910 they started quantum physics. They were already doing stuff in 1910. When people think of 1910, they think of horse-drawn carriages and whatnot. It was already started. It was already started from the era of Einstein. And in 1920s, they discovered that the observer affects the experiment. That happened, and there's the blind slit. It's the blind slit study, one of the most sort of famous, but yet not as many people should know about it as they do. And it was basically about particles of light know whether light was in particles or waves, and they did this. He did these slits where they fired light through, and when you observed it, it acted like a particle, and when you didn't observe it, it acted like a wave. And what I mean by didn't observe, when they looked at monitoring it, and then they looked at the after result, it acted like it was going through all the slits all at the same time, which would be like a wave. But when you observed it and you first said, oh, it's going to go through this slit, it would act like a particle. Now, also at the same time, you had these scientists, these quantum physicists say that you had 5 different scientists. One said A is going to happen. The other one said B is going to happen. The other one said C is going to happen. The other one said D, and the other one said E. And so they all had their different ideas of what was going to happen. So they all went off and did their experiment, and then they all come back and said, I'm right. And then looked puzzled. Well, how can we all be right? So they all did each other's experiment, did that person's experiment, but thinking, well, no, my way is right. They all went off and did their experiment, came back, they were all right again. They found that the observer, you, affects the experiment. This is also why, when through medical history, we have had placebos, the placebo effect. You have a sugar tablet or whatever it is, you have a tablet that's not real, it's fake. But you give it to the person and they think they're taking the real tablet. Now, they've always, whenever they do medicine, they always have to do a round of placebos. It is part of how the medical system works. They have to do this at every part, even with old medicines, they do it every part. Now, generally, with the placebo effect, 80%, 6% of the placebo effect of whatever they're doing, 86% of them are actually affected by that medicine, as in that sugar tablet. That's not medicine at all. They are affected by it, and out that 80%, up to 90% of them have more than half of an effect. So it's make them feel a little bit better to it cures them. Now, there's another one they did where they actually gave people fake chemotherapy. They told them they were getting chemotherapy, and actually they were just put into a machine. There was no and their hair fell out because they believed they were getting chemotherapy. What you believe, and you hear me say this over and over again, what you believe is true. The ancient rules talk about that you, especially in your body, this body is your universe. So out of everything out there, the thing you can control the most is you. In your body, you can control your body to react in a certain way. You can, if you get headaches, you can pretend you can say, this is liquid aspirin. And you can if you've got a cold, you can tell yourself, you can program yourself to not have the cold. Ever since I was about 20, I always said that my T cells, that I would keep that my T cells, which are the cells in your body that basically can create any other cell. You know, so the T cells are the morphic cells. They can morph into pretty much anything.
Like stem cells.
And I've told, like the stem cells. The T cell is actually one of the other names, is the original name for the stem cells.
Gotcha.
And
No, you're gone. Here we go. Let's troubleshoot here. And he should be back soon, guys. Don't worry. In the meantime, I'll say something really random. That's good. Anyways, so he should be back soon. Don't worry. If you guys can hear him, that's cool. I personally cannot. So hopefully in the next few seconds here, he'll switch over to the other account.
Okay, can you hear me? Can you see me?
There we go. Yeah, I can hear you. I can't. Oh, now I can see you.
I've died. It appears I've lost it on the other channel, but we should still. Yeah, we're still live at this moment in time. I'm just going to try to reboot, but I'm just going to. So the whole point is that there are techniques I was learned, techniques other people also teach. There are ways, there are techniques to teach people to heal themselves. You can heal yourself.
Yeah.
And that, I know that's what you've talked about, but you know, it's true. It is true. Those techniques exist. There are ways to heal yourself. There are things where, like I say, I've a cut that's gone almost to the bone in my old psycho days. I've cut myself and I've healed that within hours. It's gone to a strong scar, which should take days. We have the ability to repair our body. We have the ability to regenerate ourselves. It is possible.
No, not this one too. Okay, so he'll be back. Don't worry, guys. As soon as possible. So, he's rebooting the computer right now to get back on and talk. And his phone should reopen up soon. You know, maybe he's got a phone call or something that came through. It is almost an hour in. So, yeah. Where'd he go? You know, these are the moments where you're grateful that there's other co-hosts, which in this scenario there are not. So I get to talk to whoever's out there, possibly listening, for the time being. And I have no clue who's out there listening. I don't have access to the YouTube to go search and say hi to you guys, or where is this? It's also on a podcast, but I think that's uploaded after the fact. So, wubba dubba lub lub, if you guys watch Rick and Morty, and which, if you guys don't watch Rick and Morty, basically wubba dubba lub lub means like basically F my life. I'm not saying it in those terms completely because, you know, I'm enjoying myself. I can enjoy myself in almost any circumstance, pretty much any circumstance at all. So with what's happening right now is not a wubba dubba lub lub moment, which means F your life. Hey, he's back. I think almost. He is back. No more wubba dubba lub lub. He's back.
yeah, my computer decided to kick me off both ones. But you're still here, you're still going, and I think the show is still
live.
Which is good. Yeah. So, so what were you saying?
I was just talking to the audience a bit, just some random talks. Introduced the line from Rick and Morty, wubba dubba lub lub. Have you watched that show?
No.
Oh, it is brilliant. It's the most brilliant Babylonian show I've ever watched. And I absolutely love it. Just shows how the world is so messed up in the best way possible.
Indeed. So, we've got one of my students actually from my mystery school Patreon listening in. So Buffy,
hey.
Hi Buffy. She's saying all is good. That and she was saying about the big hearts for the power of the mind as well. Yes, you know, you are the creator. You can create your own reality. I say it and it's words, but you know, there is truth behind that. You know, you really do have the power to heal. I've seen it. I've seen one of my students, Fred Bleach, who was on, you saw very, very shortly,
Yeah.
before he disappeared again. Fred himself. Oh, right. Google Hangouts is there now. Okay, so Fred himself. He originally he could hardly walk. He was on a walking frame. That he's actually what's called a thalidomide baby, which was a chemical that they gave to children back in the 60s, or gave to pregnant mothers, and some of the mothers, it seriously, if the babies were either stillborn or they were horribly horribly I forgot the word,
Affected, disfigured.
Affected, physically affected, malformed, but for him, he on physical on the outside, he appears fine, but his organs were actually, when he was born, his organs were on the outside of his body, and they actually had to open him up and put them inside. And he was originally only given, I think it was about 5 hours to live, and then it was 2 years to live, and then it ended up being that he would definitely be dead by the age of about 35. He is now in his 50s.
Yeah.
But when the will, the power, the power of the mind, he wanted to live, he set his mind to it, and things happen. And then, as I said, though, when I met him, he's very wheelchair bound, and through Qigong and Shun Chi Shin and Reiki, the stuff I do, and Shun Dao massage, I've seen that turn around. I've known people with arthritis, proper arthritis, who could hardly walk, and seen them turn around. I've seen many people, and people like to say, "Oh, it's you're the healer." No, all I do, I show you the techniques. I show you the abilities. It is that anybody can do this. Anybody can help themselves. Anybody can flip things around. You can. Your body is a biomechanical organism, and it is out of everything. Yep, out of the chaos and the calmness. Out there, you can't. No, it's very hard to control things out there. But this here, this you can control. This you can steer. Is that people live in they live very much in either love or fear. Society likes to focus on fear. Society focuses on terrorism and wars, or getting burgled, or this or that. There's always something to fear, but you can flip it the other way. You can focus on the love. You can focus on the creation. Is that as and you've said this. I'm trying not to take over the show, but in essence, you've said is that we can create out there, and we can make this society out there, but surely before we worry about out there, we should focus on us. And yes, we can heal ourselves, we can fix ourselves. And the irony is, like say in China, I've said this a few times before, the irony in China is that especially in the countryside, you pay the doctor a few pounds every week. And the doctor is he or she comes to see you every single week for about 15 minutes, gives you a quick look over, and if they see illness coming up, they say, take this, eat this, do this exercise, do that, do the other, and then they go away again. If you get ill, you stop paying your doctor. I repeat, you stop paying your doctor, because if you're ill, your doctor is not doing their job. because their job is to maintain your health, not to maintain. And this is what happens in pharmaceutical companies. They actually, I've known people who work for pharmaceutical companies, and their line, their catchphrase is, "We maintain illness, not maintain health. We maintain illness. But we ensure that you can live, that that it won't kill you."
So you can give us some more.
Yeah. So and this is the point, is that so in the old Daoist way, the old Chinese medicine way, was that you would pay your doctor while you were healthy. As soon as you weren't healthy, you wouldn't pay your doctor. Now, there's another thing that the Chinese do. There's another thing.
Hold on 1 second. Can I turn my light on really quick?
Yes, certainly. It's getting a bit dark.
Let there be light. Sweet.
Let there be light, and there was light.
What'd you say?
Let there be light, and there was light.
And there was.
And just very quickly, because I always like to balance that with this, is that yes, so there's this thing of, oh well, doctors are supposed to make us better, but there's another thing in China, is that they have two lists. And now I know in America it's different. In England, we have the National Health Service, and if you need an operation or if you're ill, you can wait months, more like years, for your operation. Now in China, they have two lists. They have the list where it will take a couple of weeks, and they have a list where it will take a couple of months to maybe a couple of years. To get on the couple of weeks list, you have to be. The law is that you do half an hour of exercise every single day. In the West, we suggest this. In China, it's a law that you do half an hour. It can be martial arts, it can be weightlifting, it can be running, it can be a lot of people, especially older people, do dancing, dancing and traditional
out on the
dancing.
streets.
And it's in the parks. All the parks are set up. Is like the whole idea now. Again, I don't know about in America, but in the last 5 years, 5-10 years, that in England they're starting to put more and more gyms, the old weights and machines in parks. Now that concept came from China. China had that already. They would have weights in the parks. They even have bands that play music in the parks to give an authentic, to make it more nice. And the whole idea is by doing, so the law is you do half an hour exercise every day. If you get ill, then you will be on that short list. But if it's found out, it's almost what my friends used to call the Mrs. Miggins law. Means that if your neighbours say, oh, they haven't been doing their exercise, I didn't see them down the local park, or I haven't seen them exercising, then you get put on maybe the naughty list or the longer list, which will take, so you have to wait longer. So the idea is, so it's an incentive to look after yourself. By looking after yourself, you go on that good list, but also by looking after yourself, you're actually less likely to get ill. So with the barefoot doctors and the dragon dog shamans of China, they took that concept one step further, which is, the barefoot doctor will go from village to village looking after the whole village. And if they need, they will use massage, they will use acupressure, they will use Reiki. Well, in China, it's Shinchi Shen, which predates Reiki.
Shinchi Shen. I like that name.
Shinchi Shen, which means flowing energy spirit.
I love that. Maybe that's why I like that name.
Yeah, so it was one of the things I do. Because I do Reiki, but I also do Shinchi Shen, and there's other things to that as well. But the whole point, they do all of these, but it's also food and nutrition, and even Daoist life coaching. So you have all of these that a barefoot doctor or a qigong practitioner would use would be very similar. The qigong doctors would have could use do massage on you, could give you a dietary list, because food is medicine, not just herbs.
Yeah,
Food is medicine.
food.
So they would give you, say, and in China there are restaurants you go to, you see a doctor at the front of the restaurant, and he will get you to do your pulse and check your tongue, and then
Yeah.
he will give the chef a recipe of what food you need to revitalize your health. So they use food to actually help rebalance you, help to bring, help to heal you. And
Yes.
but the other thing they do, what the doctors also do out there is, so they first do the immediate care. So if you're ill, right, you need to do this, this, and this. But also they say, but you should also need to do this exercise, do this exercise, do this exercise. And that 30 minutes a day, that's when you do those exercises. Because that way you maintain your own health. This is why in Qigong and Tai Chi, you're called a practitioner. You are a practitioner of your own health. You do these exercises, and that maintains your own health. So, so the difference in the West, we expect other people to fix our own problems. Now again, the East has lost some of that. In the cities, it's gone further and further away from this, and they're becoming more Western. But it's not just China. There were, American Indians, and there are native ancient cultures that had self-healing systems, that they looked after each other. They naturally ate the right plants. They would do forms of exercise. Or American Indians, it was their dance. The native Indian dance is a qigong. It's basically a meditation and a qigong. So there are these different things, and like we said about, like with the Reiki, like traditional Chinese Reiki, it's not just getting that energy. Oh, boom! I've attuned you, and now you have Reiki.
Boom.
in traditional Reiki and Shinshi Shen, there are exercises, qigongs, that you do to build up that energy. So it is something you have to do yourself. It's like, if you want to learn to dance, you have to go for lessons. If you want to build up muscles, you have to lift weights. Building up energy is no different. So to heal yourself, and this is the Daoist approach, to manifest things, you need energy. So they do qigong. So in my ancient Daoist culture, they talk about manifestation and manifesting things, but you do it by building up the energy to manifest, because that's in the Daoist approach. That's why with the law of attraction and manifesting, it works at first and then seems to peter out. The reason it peters out, because you basically used up all your energy. If that's your energy for manifesting, the more I drink, the lower that goes until it's empty. And so you're creating ideas and it suddenly stops. It's because you run out of energy. But if you then do qigongs or meditate and or stretch and fill it back up again, then you've got more energy to do it all over again.
I love sleeping.
Anyway,
that's my favorite way of absorbing energy, is sleeping, because not only do I sleep, but I use energy while I sleep, a different type of energy. So I go into the astral world and I'll train and I'll get my mind right, and then I'll also be relaxing my body so it can obtain energy at the same time. And there's this yin and yang of using and obtaining, and it's
sleep uses Shen, or generates, that would be Shen. So the Shen, you have Qi, Jing, and Shen is the three. There are many different energies within the Taoist concept, but there are three main ones. So Qi is physical vitality.
Okay.
So Qi, and you also have the yin and yang of it. Is you have uncultivated and cultivated. So Qi is the air you breathe. It's the water you drink. It's the food you eat. Is raw Qi. But when we do exercise, we cultivate that, and you make cultivated chi. Jing is emotional vitality. So on the lowest level, it's sexual vitality. It's your sexual urges. It's the raw emotions. But when you cultivate them, so uncultivated, it's passion, or at least on one side it's passion. But when you cultivate it, it becomes compassion, unconditional love. So there is a difference between, so like raw emotions, happy, sad, this, that. A Buddhist, like you see, like either a Buddhist, or you see a monk, or you see somebody through meditation, and they tend to be more calm, and they tend to be, they start to chill out a little bit more, and it's a little bit more balanced, and that's because they're cultivating the Jing into cultivated Jing, which is from passion to compassion. Okay. And then another energy, which is Shen. And Shen is, on one side, Shen is your thoughts. So the 60,000 thoughts you have flying around in your head, they are raw Shen. But when you cultivate Shen, it becomes inspiration, it becomes ideas, it becomes psychic abilities, it becomes the higher realms. So you have the uncultivated and cultivated. And the cultivated resides, the free cultivated energies reside in your lower dantian, which is underneath your belly button, which some people call the hara. Just just underneath here. In Daoism, it's 1.5 inches down and 1.5 inches in. And when you see Buddha, Buddha's got a big belly because he's cultivated his lower dantian. His lower dantian is full of, on how I was taught it was full of cultivated chi. So he's got a big belly because he's full of chi. Then his middle dantian, he cultivates Jing. And now Jing, so cultivated is the compassion. So he's got big moobs, he's got a big heart because he's full of Jing, cultivated energy. Then in the top dantian, which is the middle dantian is behind the heart chakra. The chakra is a different thing. The chakra is a turbine, so that generates energy. The dantians store energy. So the dantian is behind the heart chakra. So the top dantian is behind the third eye. It's right in the center of the pineal gland. So the dantian is Shen, and this is why Buddha has big earlobes, because he's full of Shen. He's connected with spirits. He's connected with the heavens. He's connected with the universe. When he's got a big belly, he's full of physical chi, vitality, but he's also connected to the earth. So he's connected to the earth, he's connected to the heavens, and in between is connected by the heart to all three.
I have a question.
It's the line between the two. Go for it.
And this is totally random. Years ago, my friend and I'm not sure if I should say her name because we're not talking right now, but my friend and we would go to my room and meditate and hear ringing in our ears. Look at that smile. So, in your terms, what is that ringing? Because in my terms, that was connection, right, to the astral. So, in your terms, what is that ringing?
The ringing, some would say it is tinnitus, but tinnitus is slightly, medical term for tinnitus is actually pressure within the ears, which is actually part of the reason for it. But it's basically the ringing in the ears is pressure in the ears, and it's the frequency changes. That's why you get this ringing tone. The ringing, in meditation, the ringing is tuning in to the astral realm. It's the higher vibrations being picked up. It can also be seen for those who go into there's also a thing called clairaudience. So clairaudience is hearing the spirit world or the spiritual dimension. In Taoism, the spirit world and heaven are planes of existence, are dimensions. Exactly. You know, so they're not the top; they're just other levels. They're like, so in the and what I was taught, the ancient ones, the ancient culture, the ancients are so you have the chakras, which is the Buddhist system. You have the auras, tends to be more in Europe and tends to be more of an open system. You have the meridians, which are known more as the Daoists and the Chinese, more the Daoist system. You have the Dantians, which are known as the Daoist system. You have the Merkaba or Merkaba, which is known in Judaism. It's also known in Christianity. The Star of David is the Merkaba, but it's also heavily known in Tibetan Buddhism. And then the Torah field, the flower life, is sort of known in different ancient cultures. Now, I went to 3 different main places. I went to China, went to Tibet, I went to India. Those 3 especially, and then later I talked to people of the Jewish faith. There was this talk of ancient culture, this ancient civilization, where all these energy systems that exist are actually layers within your consciousness, your soul means body or breath, so I prefer consciousness. So your consciousness is, you have the meridians, then you have the chakras, then you have the aura, then you have the Merkaba or Merkaba, then you have the Torah field, and what binds them all together is the 3 Dantians. And but what happened is that this one society split up. And as it split up, it became other societies. So from that one society, you have the Chinese or Taoism, you have Buddhism. All those cultures were once one culture, according to this story of the ancient knowledge. So all this information was once one. Now, in theory, what goes out eventually will come back. Or eventually, this information, people will realize it's all one. You know, it literally is all one. But they talked about that people lived. Even the Daoists, the Chinese, talked about that the average lifespan was 250 years.
Simple.
So but you go into the Quran, you go into the Christian, the Old Testament, the New Testament. You go in. They're talking about even longer. They're talking about it was the Book of Enoch, which Christ talks about, the Book of Enoch, which is said to be written by the grandfather of Noah. To Noah, which is ancient history, Noah's grandfather wrote the Book of Enoch, and he was supposed to be over 500 years old. And then you look at Hindu texts, and they talk about people who are going up to 2,000 years old.
And then, it's like, what the heck?
You know, it is that our society are actually living short lives, short lifespans.
Tiny lifespans.
Exactly. But it's all about our perception. What you perceive. The world is a product of what you perceive it to be. It's one of Fred Bleach's, Batman. Fred Bleach's famous sayings. I say what you believe is true to you, and you are your own creator. That's how I was taught it. So it's this ancient, this old knowledge, this old wisdom that we just need to remember. We need to go back to
and open it up.
Indeed. Right. Is there anything else you want to talk about before? I think we should wrap it up soon. So, is there anything else you want to talk about?
One thing, that ringing sounded like angels singing. So at times it would just happen, right? And
Right.
that's what was really cool with about my relationship with my friend, was that we were both hearing these songs, these entrances to the astral realm, right? That not too many people seem to care about. Like, really, there's another world out there. There's a whole nother world out there. I've had training in the astrals for millions of years just on Earth alone. There's a lot out there to really understand, to learn, to grow, to be infinite with, you know? Just like healing yourself. I got a burn. I was making my friend Joan a little gift, right? Using a wood iron, where you use the wood to burn, you use the iron to burn the wood, and it slipped and completely burned, like right here, or something like that. I don't really remember exactly where it was, but I felt it, and it went, and instantly I was just like, there wasn't words. There wasn't words. The feeling, if the feeling of it burning itself was, the feeling that happened after was just like a nice, cool breath of air. And the thing just healed itself. like right there. And it's beautiful. You're talking about your friend who said he was about to, be gone in 5 hours. 5 hours of this planet. And he's made it to what, 50 plus?
Yeah, that's the point.
And that's only a fraction of the time that we could be living, right? We all have this expectation that we die at 80. But is that really how it works?
Again, I think it depends. You go to far away, you go to villages which are more remote, and you get people a lot older than that average lifespan. China, there are big places, there are lots of places in China, 100 is an average.
Yeah.
100 years old is an average. It's not a rarity, it's an average out there. I mean, you've got in China, the way things work out there is differently. So you've got people, because of the exercise they do every single day, and because of out, especially the country, the villages, and I say countryside, but countryside in the West, in England, especially, and obviously America, means one thing, but we're talking about like shanty town sort of out there. But those people, they're working up 80 years old, they're still working 14, 15-hour days, but they're healthy. They're not brittle and weak. They're strong and healthy, and they don't look 80. When I met my Sifu, Malay Shun, and his brother Potion, but basically Malay was known as Shun, and then it was Shun and Po. They were, I think there was 2 years difference between them, and I met him 1981 going into 1982. So he was 81 years old, and Shun was 81 years old, and 82 was when I actually worked with him more, and his brother was year younger, 2 years younger, but they looked in their 50s, at least in their 50s. They did not look, what we seem as 80. But I remember back, my grandfather, I remember him in his 60s, and I remember him looking like I've seen people in their 80 years old, and vice versa. I've seen people, who in their 80s who look nothing like that. Age is a concept, age is an idea, but it's your point of view. This is this big thing. If you can so control your body, and a lot of medical professionals know this. They know, not the average doctor, but there's a lot of science that shows that these people have there's people who look in their 90s, and you know, and they're still young and healthy, or healthier than me. And you know, the whole point is that, you know, but we're not shown them. We're not seeing that point of view. You know, a lot of people will see people being old, and you get people say, oh, you know, got an aches and pains. Oh, you're getting old. You know, it's your age.
Bye bye.
Rubbish. It's
No.
total and utter rubbish.
Yeah.
But anyway.
And if you're going to speak, right? If you're going to speak to a older person who's having these aches and pains, uplift them, you know, with like a younger feeling. Like, okay, here's some young energy rather than your old energy. You know, like, come on, who wants to have their old energy? But I was just working earlier with my 102-year-old aunt. Earlier today, just walking around, moving, climbing upstairs normally, like.
Yeah, but that's, you know, because we've been told, oh, that's not possible, or that's just a one-off. That's just and that's where, you know, let's say, or yes, you know, like, or speak out or think out of the box. Yes, we do have problems on this planet. Yes, there are issues. Yes, they do exist, but change them. You change them by physically doing stuff, and you change them by your way, your concept. And it's all our responsibilities. You can't blame everybody else. It's, oh, I can't do anything. It is our responsibility. But you change, like I say, with society, with business, the way you change it is the way you buy. You know, is that 10, 15 years ago, organic food was a lot more expensive than it is now. So if you keep buying it, if you keep trying, you know, as much as you can to go for organic food, to go, or I mean, I know there's a problem with this in America, but like growing your own food, you know, like England, we don't have that problem. But I know there are certain states where you're not allowed to grow your own food, and there's certain states where you're not allowed to collect rainwater, and you know, and for us that's a crazy idea, but you know, those concepts, that's what's happening, is because we're trying to restrict things, or we're trying to, you know, there's something going on there. There's something else going on there. But the way you get around that is you sometimes you have to fight. Sometimes you have to be persistent and say, no, I don't believe in this. I'm going to do this. You know, you've got to find ways around it. You've got to adapt. You've got to change. But don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give in.
Ever.
Yeah, that's my fault. I have one massive fault, and that is I never give up. I never give up. I never give in. I love the it was Einstein that said. I mean, I always go by this. That Einstein said that a fool is someone that does the same thing over and over again and expects different results. So you have an idea that you want to create. It doesn't work one way. Change it a tad. Twist it a little bit. Try it again. A key. You try and put a key in the lock and it doesn't work, but you know that the key is for that lock. Shake it, move it, twist it, lift it, pull it, push it. You just keep doing different things. You change the concept slightly. You add something, you take something away. You keep doing it because probability, you may have heard me say this, I'm sure you've heard me say this before. My nan's Irish saying was, a broken clock is right twice a day. So sooner or later, you are going to be right. You know, is that you have an idea, you have a concept, sooner or later, you're going to be right. I mean, yeah, you may need to twist it slightly, change it slightly, or at least do it to a different set of. Those people don't accept it. Fine, go to another set of people. And you know, how many people are there on the planet? So you can do the same idea to all those people and probability states. If you study probability states that sooner or later you're going to be right. Is that, you know, if you have 6 dice and you roll them at one stage, sooner or later you will get six times. You know,
Yeah.
it could be a couple of hundred throws down the road, but it will happen. So probability is the key. Is that, you know, and you know, like this thing of law of attraction and magic is, it's all about probability. It's probably, you know, probable outcomes. Is that you, the more you can design something, you go, oh,
Yeah.
okay, well, right, I want to, in Daoist, in the Daoist way of doing stuff, if you want to jump 12 foot from standing, what you do, you start off with a half a foot hole and you jump in and out of that hole at least 500 times every day. And every day you take a cup full of dirt out. And you keep doing that until you get your desired depth of hole. And because you're doing it, it's called the water way, the water technique, because you're doing something every day, regularly, every single day. So you jump in and out of that hole 500 times, and as that hole gets slowly deeper and deeper and deeper, your body has naturally adjusted because you have the stamina and the power. As that hole slowly gets deeper, you've done those 500 jumps every single day, and the hole slowly gets deeper. But because you're doing so many jumps and because you're doing it every single day, that minute level, that your muscles have to expand that little bit more, create that little bit more power. Because you're doing it every single day for so long, it's effortless as sorts. It knackers you out because you're doing 500 jumps a day, but you will eventually get to your 12 foot.
And that 12 foot's impressive.
I've many years ago, I've jumped a 7 foot wall from standing. I jumped up onto a 7 foot wall using that technique. So I know it's possible, and I saw my teacher jump a 12 foot wall, so I know that's possible. But again, I was 28 at the time, I think. He was, so if I was. You okay?
Yeah.
Do you want to go?
Sorry about that.
No, you need to go.
No, not right now, but definitely we're going to wrap it up because it's been almost 2 hours.
2 hours. Yeah. So so I know I've seen some crazy stuff during my time, but I'm very spiritual, but I'm also a scientist. You know, is that I see things scientific, and Taoism for me is spiritual science. Is that they say everything is logic, everything is possible, everything is feasible, but it's finding the technique that happens. And you know, so like quantum physics, the wonderful thing about quantum physics is as it's progressed, quantum physics has more and more shown that these ancient technologies, these ancient concepts they talked about are real, and quantum physics is clarifying the ancient knowledge. It's showing that it's real. I mean, there are 2 Russian scientists that have basically proven, or are basically saying that the fabric of the universe itself, is actually made out of sacred geometry. And one of the symbols that seems to be the prolific symbol throughout the whole universe is pretty much a macabre, the Star of David, a triangle, a pyramid, but rather than in 2D, David is a triangle pointing down and a triangle pointing up. But in 3D, it's actually a pyramid. One pyramid pointing down and one pyramid pointing up. And this
inside of each other, right?
Yeah, inside of each other. And this symbol it's pretty much 90% of a macabre. There's just a little bit they haven't quite seen yet. But the symbol that they're saying is within the fabric of the universe is pretty much this sacred geometry symbol, or almost, and it is the macabre, the Star of David. So you know, when you get stuff like that, when you also get the ancient Taoists say that the sun is a doorway, is a gate, that in the center of the sun was a big black hole, and on the outside of the sun was all the light. So what they represent that is that light is yang. So the little light bit above my head, the light bit is yang and the black bit is yin. So the center, and what they call a wuqi, Wu Chi means supreme ultimate. All
Okay.
possibilities, which is a circle. So within both Japanese, in the Japanese, you see them draw the circle, and they
Yeah.
say that perfection is the circle, and in Chinese, the circle is the
Oh.
Wu Chi. So when you put now that circle in the secret knowledge, that circle becomes a sphere. It's
Yeah.
actually a sphere. It spins round. And when you put what's called Wu Chi Dao, when you put two Wu Chi circles together, and you spin one way and spin one the other, the center becomes the yin, the darkness, the black hole, and
Hmm.
the outer becomes the light, the yang.
Hmm.
Now, there's a guy called Nissan Harriman, who is a
Yeah.
physicist. Now, he's taken the knowledge of British physicist, Stephen Hawkins. There was Stephen Hawkins and the
Okay.
other guy. I always forget the other guy's name, but they came up with the theory that said about the black holes, and that they would find black holes within the universe, and they started finding them. And
Yeah.
now, interestingly, they find at the center of nearly every galaxy that they can see has a
Hmm.
black hole. Now,
Yeah.
what Nissan Harriman has found is that through the data, when you look at the sun, when you see the videos of the sun, and they're using they're using the cameras to see the sun, and they see the black marks in the sun. Have you seen
Okay.
this?
Yeah.
So whether they see and they see the black marks, what Nissan Harriman is saying is that the data, the science is showing that black. They said, oh, it's just a cold spot on the sun. They're saying it's not a cold spot. It's actually a black hole. That every sun, every star at the center of the star is a black hole. So when they talk about brown dwarfs, red dwarfs and brown dwarfs collapsing, and they collapse so much to create a black hole,
Yeah.
the
Totally.
data is actually showing is that the black hole is already there. The sun, the outer rim, the event horizon, the energy that's been generated from the black hole is the outer rim of it is spinning so bright it creates a sun. The sunlight inside the sun is a black hole. Every sun contains a black hole because the ancient drawings showed circles with what we draw like a sun, little spiky bits, and they drawed then little, like almost like an iron burns a shirt, you have like a little round triangle.
Yeah.
They were showing these black marks with spaceships coming out. There's old stone tablets
Oh yeah.
where you
Yeah.
see this. You see, and the
I've
doubt
seen that.
in China, they say the dragon dogs. I haven't. So the dragon dogs they talk about, they
Hey,
say
there
the
you go.
dragon dogs actually came from the sun. They
Huh.
came from the doorway or gate in the sun,
I'm
and
liking that
a
theory.
lot of ancient cultures talk about the sun gods, the gods that came from the sun.
Totally.
Now, when they looked, or some of these pictures, they show this black mark. And when you look at the modern day, some of the modern day pictures of the sun, they showed the exact same black mark in the sun. And what now certain people are saying is that Nissan Harriman is right. The black, if there is a black hole in the sun, and the outer, the yang of the sun is the event horizon, what they call the event horizon, it's the unlimited energy coming off the outer, and in the center is a black hole. That black hole could be used, if that's correct. They're using higher intelligences are using suns as stargates.
I could see that.
Stargate, the movie and the series about stargates. The sun is a stargate.
Yeah. Totally. I could totally see that working, especially since when two suns collide, it creates this huge, like nebula-like force, that could literally just be the outside light just bursting off. I mean,
Now,
there's chemicals involved too, but yeah, of course.
What Nissan Harriman is also working on, which is what that information. So on the Daoist side, the people I learned from in Wudang Mountain, a mountain in China. One of the mountains where the Daoists are known, there were Daoists that were talking about, they would talk about this concept that the suns are this yang on the outside and yin in the center, or wu qi dao. Now, what they also then talked about, that within your body, these wu qi daos exist everywhere. And in your body, and you can tap the wu qi dao is an unlimited connection to the Tao. The Tao is everything and nothing all at once. It's beyond the universe. So you can say it's sort of God, but the Tao is more like it's collective consciousness. It's unlimited consciousness. It's unlimited energy. So these wu qi daos, these wu qi daos connect you to this unlimited energy. So your aim as a Daoist is to connect to the Tao and, plug in, like in Reiki, they talk about plugging into the universal energy. So in Daoist, you talk about plugging into this universal energy. Now, what Nissan Harriman has gone on to speculate, in atoms themselves, we are made of atoms. Within atoms themselves, he is now speculating there is another black hole within every atom that exists. So within the molecules that actually make ourselves, there are black holes. And they're in the sun, there are black holes. The black holes are everywhere. There are these contacts to the universe is everywhere. And in Christianity, Christ is said to have said that God, God, myself, we are everywhere. We're in everything. Yeah. Pick up a stone and you will find me. Look at your shadow, I am there. You do not have to go to church to find God. The universe is, you are within you. You are that energy. You have the energy within you.
Totally.
I think that's enough.
Yeah. Mr. Universe.
Just call me Boggie.
I love it.
Okay, so right. I would like to thank Savoy. So thank you so much, Savoy. It's been a great show. I think I've rambled a bit too much. I think I need other co-hosts to reel me in a bit. But it was a great show. I think it's a Savoy Boggie show, maybe, and near the end. But, it's been a great show. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I have.
I've definitely enjoyed having this one-on-one conversation with you so much. I'm meditating and feeling inside.
Sorry, Buffy. Yeah. We're so busy enjoying ourselves. We not that we actually had an audience. Buffy liked it. Buffy said it was a great show.
Oh, that's good.
It was a great show. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Buffy. And then so did everybody else. We had a great time. Everybody else is irrelevant. But it's all good. So I'd like to say thank you very much. Actually, let's see if I can just very quickly do it in 10 seconds, possibly. Next week, for those who are listening in the future, because we have a lot of people from America and whatnot that actually listen later on. So Buffy saying thank you, lots of hearts. Buffy, thank you. Thank you very much for listening. Next week we have Tammy Shinshuri. So he's our guest for next week. I'm trying. Let's leave it as a surprise. Sure, her information will be on her link, and her link will be going up around about Monday, Tuesday. So thank you so much for Savoy. Thank you, my friend. I've enjoyed it immensely. It does almost feel like a Boggie hangout rather than the way of Savoy. But as long as you've enjoyed it, that's all. That's good.
Of course, that was fun. I love it.
Cool. Okay, so well, you never know. We might have to do another one in the future. Do a Savoy 2, maybe in another year's time. See where you are from there. How about that?
Sounds good.
Cool. Right. So, yeah. So for Buffy, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope to speak to you soon. Oh, Buffy, let me know. Do you like the idea of there being a group, the mystery school, or doing the Jedi mystery school? Would you like a group on Facebook so you can get the information that way rather than, or as well as getting it on Patreon? So let me know. For everybody else, I hope you enjoyed it, and I think Savoy's enjoyed it. So take care. Bye for now. See you next week. Love, Chi, and Shen from Savoy and Boggie, and goodbye from the Way of Conscious Mindfulness.
Love you guys.